Hello and welcome to Bow and Arrow Tarot and the April, May, June Tarot Outlook for anyone resonating with the water sign of Scorpio. Now, as you are, by virtue of you being here and watching this video right now, clearly something inside of you has drawn you to this video, right? You are here, you're with us. And so, you're beginning to watch me shuffle your cards briefly and get ready to cut your deck. And I'm sure that many of you are already beginning to wonder whether this reading is even going to resonate with you or provide you the clarity that you've been seeking, perhaps on an issue you've been focusing on for quite some time. So while I get ready to cut your cards, I just want you to take with me, because I do this when I start my readings, just take a deep breath and really sort of relax for a minute. Roll your shoulders back, lift your head up in a relaxed way, and just assume a position of assurance, security, self-confidence, and also relaxation so that you can get whatever messages or clarity or inspiration that your guides have led you here for. Okay, so this reading may not entirely resonate with you today, Scorpio, but there may be little bits of information that help you along the way. All right, so here we go. We're going to get right into your Celtic spread. You're resonating with Ten of Swords this April, May, June, and followed by the Fool. Wow, starting off very good because this is already the ending to struggle. You have the Star and the Three of Wands. Excellent energy. Wow, Four of Wands is coming in for you and the Hierophant. You have a Chariot, more 7 energy, and the Empress. Wow, Scorpio, you have Death, and then you come out of this period with a 7 of Swords. This is a very interesting reading. Knight of Pentacles. Okay, so again, we're going to get right into it. I will pull some clarifiers later on, Scorpio, but this is a very interesting reading. You have a lot of strong major arcana: Star, Hierophant, the Fool, Death, Chariot, Empress. So you have 6 major arcanas out of a 10-card spread. Okay, so that's a lot, right? That's a predominance of major arcana for you today, Scorpio. And then you have some pretty strong suit cards like 4 of Wands and 10 of Swords. A nice core card, Knight of Pentacles, certainly indicating a commitment to being on a particular path or endeavor. You also have a lot of 7s. Right? Well, indeed, you have the 2 most important 7s. Certainly in the major arcana, you have the 7 Chariot and the 17 Star. And 7 in tarot is always associated with your ultimate dreams and wishes and your desire for those dreams and wishes, right? And I'm going to get into that as we go. You also have another 7 up here, which is the 7 of Swords. And that's an interesting card to wind up on, but we'll get into it, Scorpio. So now that you're nice and relaxed, you're here, let's get right into the reading. And I do hope that this provides some clarity or guidance for you in some area. 10 of Swords indicates that this is finally a period marking the end of a long period of struggling for you, Scorpio. 10 of Swords is, it marks the end of a long period of struggling, but oftentimes what marks the end of a long period of struggling is that final act, right? A final act that maybe has hurt you or that you've suffered under, and it's sort of that straw that broke the camel's back act and that final sword. The image of the character there on the floor, this is symbolic of the ego, Scorpio. And so with 10 of Swords, we're talking about a period of time in your life where you've probably had to deal with a lot of blows to your ego. Now, what do I mean by that? That could be blows to your ego. Could be, and you're covered by the Fool, which is actually very nice, but I'll get into that. Blows to the ego can be anything. It can be a lot of different experiences, really, in life. They can be experiences of having lost a job. They can be the experience of having applied over and over for jobs and never getting them. That's a blow to the ego. It can be an experience of not achieving certain goals that you wanted to achieve, right? Not being able to live where you want to live, or not being able to figure out an answer to something that is impacting your life, right? Blows to the ego and these swords, right, these injuries, they can also be traumatic relationships where you've had to battle and fight and you've had this kind of real trauma on your psyche and your ego. Blows to the ego can be times in your life where people have made you feel insecure, lowered your self-esteem, and you've had a negative image of yourself, or you've maintained a negative image of yourself, or an event came into your life that caused you to hold on to a negative self-image. That can be a blow to the ego. So when we talk about Ten of Swords, we're talking about a period of your life where you've had to suffer a lot of these blows, and each time you've gotten back up again. Right? You're the same person. You took the blow, maybe healed up that wound, but you got up again. Ten of Swords indicates a period of time where you no longer get up again. You don't get up the way you were, right? Before it was like the same person, the same Scorpio with the same sort of ego set. And when I say ego set, I mean your sense of self, right? Your sense of who you are. With that same set, I don't mean like you're being egotistical. We all have an ego, but that set construct keeps getting up, and keeps fighting back. At some point, what happens with Ten of Swords, that ego now is completely done and dead. And what gets up now is a new you. This is why tens are such a strong card for completion. What rises up now from this last event is a completely new Scorpio, a completely new you. A Scorpio whose ego has now transcended this stage, right? And so now the person that gets up can't be hurt by the same swords anymore, right? You can't be hurt by the same blows. They don't affect you the same way, right? It's like when you meet somebody who perhaps maybe they've been through poverty or losing a job in their life before, right? And so now if they lose a job, it doesn't affect them the same way. They know how to survive. They know what to do. They know how to hit the ground running perhaps, or things like that. If they go through a period of poverty now or not having enough cash flow, they know what to do because they've been through that before during this period. And so this is what we mean by a new ego rising up. Essentially a new ego being smaller, Scorpio, that rises up from this Ten of Swords, and you're much stronger, you're much wiser, you're much more confident, and you're not able to suffer under the same sort of injuries that you did before. And I want you to take notice that you're reading with the Rider-Waite cards. There is a lot of gold and yellow everywhere anyway, right? That's the nature of the cards. But there is some darkness to some cards. So you can see that this Ten of Swords is like the only darkness in your reading is this little, the skyline of the Ten of Swords, which is receding, by the way. The darkness is going away and the horizon is growing. So it's like this is definitely a reading for a Scorpio who's coming from a period of life that maybe was quite dark. But this April, May, June is going to be extremely uplifting for you. And in comes the Fool to indicate that this is really a whole new chapter in your life, Scorpio, coming in. Very nice, very strong. The Fool also is, again, a lot of times we interpret the Fool as taking that quantum leap into something new. But we also forget that I called it a quantum leap. A lot of people call it a leap of faith, but I call it a quantum leap, right? And if you really want to blow your mind about the nature of existence and the universe, take a look at any quantum mechanics documentary. But the Fool makes this new leap into a new era in their life, or a new stage in their life. And the one thing you have to also understand with the Fool is that this doesn't happen until the Fool has learned something from the previous stage. The Fool always represents the quadrant going up and down the tree of life. It represents us, right? It's the zero card, right? So it represents us in our infinite sort of possibilities and our constant sort of learning and descending and learning and descending. And the Fool also doesn't enter into new stages until it has really sort of absorbed everything it needed to absorb from the previous stage. So this is also very complementary to come in over the Ten of Swords, because it indicates that this is certainly a move, right, for Scorpio who's really evolved. You've really evolved. You've really transcended. You've really learned some lessons, some hard lessons. And you are absolutely coming into a period now, this April, May, and June, where you're probably will even physically feel lighter as a result of how light your spirit is feeling having left this. Now, consciously, you are resonating with star energy. And the star is why I mentioned earlier the significance of the sevens. The star is the second seven, it's the 17, the first seven being the Chariot. And both cards are really associated with our desire to follow our wish, our goal, our ambition. But with the star, we see the figure there constantly, she is constantly pouring water onto the land, and then the land is allowing the water to sort of drip back into the pool, and she's just exchanging back and forth. Now, of course, the star card is associated with Aquarius. It's the card for Aquarius, but it really doesn't matter. I just mentioned that as a point of reference, just so you guys know. Death is your card, Scorpio, so you are technically showing up in your own reading, but in any case, the star, when we talk about her fertilizing this ground, the star energy is all about when we sort of check in with ourselves along the path of our lives. So as we're living our lives, right, we have different times that we kind of veer off our path, right? We may veer off the path because for a couple years we have to do something, right? We have to take care of something. We have responsibilities. There can be years, months, years, there could be weeks, months, but there can also be years of time when we are not exactly on the path we really truly want to be on. We may want to be, you've heard of this, somebody actually wants to be a singer, right? And they have a beautiful voice, but they're just like an average person, and they have a family and they have kids, and they they spend 10, 15, 20 years taking care of their family and living their life and having a regular career, doing something else. And then suddenly they're 40 or 50 years old, and they're back on their life's path, and suddenly now they're doing what they really truly wanted for their lives, and they're suddenly a singer, even a late in life singer, and they're able to manifest this goal. So the star energy talks about when we are being very active about maintaining our path, right? So she's very actively, constantly pouring the waters of her emotion and the focus of her feelings into the ground that is fertilizing her dreams, right? So the ground being our everyday lives, our environment, our jobs, the actions we take, the way we live, all of that is associated with earth, right? Energy. And so here we're talking about with the stars, she is able to constantly check her emotions and her actions to keep fertilizing the earth, the area around her, her life, her environment, so that she's able to grow her dreams, so that her dreams come into manifestation. This is a constant feeling of checking in and making sure that you're always working towards your goal, and that you're also maintaining an environment and a mental outlook, if you will, so that you can remain committed to that. Right? So that you're not sort of distracted, or so that you're not veered off, right? So that you're always sort of making sure that everything you're doing and every action that you're taking is all sort of focused towards achieving whatever your goal is in your life. And so this is checking in, and this is what you're doing. This is feeling for April, May, and June. As if for a lot of you, I'm going to say, and because the Chariot shows up here, I'm going to get into the Chariot when we get there, but the Chariot is the first seven and really sets up the path. Once the Chariot engages, right, it will not veer off the path. It's going to stay on that path for the most part, right? It may go fast, it may go different places. The path isn't a consistent one throughout your entire life. Sometimes, yes, you do stop that path, you get off, but then you have to get back on. But the Chariot is all about that preparation, and it's the first seven, whereas the 17, now you're on the path and you're doing that constant checking in, constant checking in. So In any case, this is what you're resonating with. April, May, June, Scorpio. This is a Scorpio who's coming out of a period, I'm going to say, where perhaps you did not feel like you were at all on your path for your life, for what it is you truly want to do in your life. And now you're having the opportunity to very intentionally focus on that. In the back of your mind, you have a Three of Wands. And this is a feeling of being patient. Three is the number for virtue, bonding and loyalty, and patience is a virtue. So Three of Wands here, we are finding patience, right? We are finding ourselves either being forced to slow down and stand still, or we're taking the stance of standing still and really focusing our energy out into the world, primarily waiting and looking, right? Certainly this is an active waiting. They're waiting and paying attention to the signs that will guide you to your next step. So for some of you, you are waiting for some serious signs to come in right now in the back of your mind. You know, coming out of this Ten of Swords may indeed, you know, it's a shift, it's a change. This is a big change. This is a big release. Certainly with that Fool energy, this is definitely, and it's going to be a very active feeling of you knowing that you're starting a new stage in life or a new chapter of your life. But as you're checking in, there is a feeling that you want a bit more information in some area. And we're going to get more clarity on that. Coming in, you are coming in with Four of Wands and you are coming out with the Hierophant. So for some of you, there's an area in your life that you have a strong desire to lock down for a soulmate connection. Right. So it's interesting. A lot of these quarterly readings that I've been doing, second quarterly readings, for a lot of my collective, you guys have indeed your center area, your center line in the reading, which is all about your conscious and subconscious energies, are really have all been geared towards self-improvement, self-realization. But many of you, this is this horizontal line is more of a timing and energy you're bringing in and out of this period, right, line. And so for some of you, this timing right now, though, is coinciding with the deep desire to have a love connection. A lot of you are coming in with Four of Wands, or Knight of Cups, or King of Cups, a desire to have a committed relationship, whether it is with someone specific that you already have your eye on, or if it is with someone new, but there is a strong desire to have this sort of stability here and to find your soulmate. So for some of you, you may be calling in your soulmate. You may be coming into this period calling in your soulmate. The Hierophant is here coming out of this period, right? So you come in and you come out with the Hierophant. So this is a feeling certainly that by the end of April, May, and June, some of you may be in a position to commit to a relationship. A commitment may have developed, or a situation of increased commitment may have developed. In any case, you will certainly have an increase in your commitment to your values and your morals and sort of your code for your life. So whether this is down to an actual connection, love connection, or whether it is just that path you're following for yourself, you know, it's down to you. Now, they do go hand in hand, because a lot of times this Four of Wands is that kind of love commitment that we would associate with a marriage, with a union. A lot of people consider that a holy union. This is why we call it a divine masculine, divine feminine, a twin flame. So all of that, you know, that energy associated with being in a union with someone, in a connection like this with someone, that is very much synonymous with the Hierophant energy in general, even though Hierophant is much more associated with the spiritual commitments that we make. For a lot of us, a love commitment is a form of a spiritual commitment. And so this is why these two cards can very much go hand in hand. But sometimes the Hierophant doesn't necessarily mean a commitment with a actual connection to someone, like a marriage, or a resonating up of commitment in terms of moving in or what have you. It can certainly also just mean a doubling down on your spiritual beliefs. And this can also come in certainly because right now you're having a little bit of a spiritual epiphany, right? Because whenever you go through one difficult stage to the next, it does feel like a spiritual awakening. Now, Scorpio, you're coming into this period with Chariot and you're being met with the Empress. So again, you are very much like I said earlier, it feels like a Scorpio who's getting back on the path And so Chariot energy is here, which also indicates that you're doing real active preparation about this new path, this planning. Feeling is coming in a way that you are really envisioning how you want this next stage of your life to be, right? The Chariot can also indicate for some of you actual motion, movement, right? You may actually be moving, planning to move, right? Planning to relocate, planning to change something very major in your life that involves, I'm going to say motion of sorts, right? Right. So even changing apartments or changing jobs was something about your actual motion, but also this is going to be a very intentional sort of planning of the steps you are wanting to take on this new journey. Whereas the star really talks about that emotional and psychic checking in that we're doing to make sure. The Chariot is much more of that grounded energy, you know, we're talking about where you're really sort of writing out the plans and getting ready to achieve them. You're met with Empress energy, and the Empress comes in for you because in a lot of ways, I think part of your path is a desire for taking care of yourself, right? The Empress really talks about self-nurturing and self-love and cultivating your own sort of garden, right? Remaining creatively fertile. How do we remain creatively fertile? When we say that about the Empress, we mean things like taking care of our health, taking care of our body, taking time to do things that we know are good for us. If meditation is something that helps us to remain calm and to remain centered, then making sure to take time out to meditate, right? Making sure to take the time out to make your environment as such an environment so that you are comfortable in it. All of these things are about sort of taking care of yourself and nurturing yourself. And it's also about doing the best possible thing for yourself so that you can then also remain nurturing for others, right? So this is the mother who really needs to, if she's been overworked and overburdened, she really needs to take some time out for herself, because only that way can she recharge herself, and of course then be that loving, giving, right, energy of the Empress. You come in this period with death energy in your positions of hopes and dreams and fears, right? And death, of course, is your card, Scorpio. And I think that it's coming in this position because you want the change. I think you're relishing the change. You've probably been waiting for a long time to have a very major transformation come in. And so for you, this is a welcome happening. Right? This is a welcome transition that's coming in. Death in tarot, of course, I'm sure you're familiar, it does not mean a literal death. But I can tell you this much, it is just as formidable and just as unstoppable. So in tarot, death is a change that comes in, but it is the part of the change that is the death. So it's the difficult part of the change. And let me reiterate this, because a lot of times people interpret death as, yes, transformation is coming in and that's all great. But death is an omen sort of the change that is coming in. First, something must die. And that's the portion that death deals with. So this is the death, the energy of the card of death is that very difficult period of dealing with the death of a relationship, of a whatever connection you have to people, places, and things, a job, an environment that you're used to, whatever it is that you are attached to, right, that is needing a change in your life. First, that attachment has to die, right, in some way, shape, or form. And this is the energy of the death card, and this is the very difficult time. You know, it is your card, Scorpio, and because, you are one of these signs that you go through a lot of difficulties, you're able to withstand those emotional traumas, right, the actual feeling of that moment of going through it, right? It's after that, of course, after the pain, that the transformation begins to come in, and we begin to get some respite from it all. But initially, death is very difficult, and it can be quite traumatic, even though you are welcoming it. And in this case, I do think you're welcoming it. I'm going to stay away from that Seven of Swords until I pull out the clarifiers, because that is a feeling of futility, and I wonder why that's coming in for you. But let's just pull out your clarifier, Scorpio. And then we are going to pull out your romance angel messages for this period and call it a reading. All right, guys, we have, are we upside down? No. We have 3 of Cups. The Tower. Wow, the Tower showed up a lot. Ace of Swords, and we have the King of Swords. Wow. Okay, so bottom of the deck, we have Prince of Swords. So Prince of Swords is the same as the Knight, all right, in this particular deck. So we have 2 Knights. Here we go now. So this is quite interesting, and I'm going to get into the 7 of Swords. 3 of Cups comes out of that star energy. So part of your desire is certainly socially orientated. And it involves your relationships, because 3 of Cups is coming in to clarify that. So for some of it, it could be that this particular change in your life is involving your outlook on your social group or the way you're interacting with people. It could be that you've had a lot of difficulties, perhaps engaging or relating or feeling like you are part of a community. You may have been feeling ostracized, or you may have just been living a life that has kept you out of the community that you want. But 3 of Cups is a feeling of bonding and loyalty with people who are like-minded, your friends, your social group, your community, your tribe, you know, your collective. Whatever the case is, it's a feeling of coming together, loyalty, bonding, and celebrating. And it seems to me that part of your true desire here, Scorpio, is finding that. You know, part of your wish for your life, your goal is finding your tribe. This could even be for someone who is perhaps, you know, maybe if you are, an example could be that if you are from a different upbringing, right? Or you are have a certain identity, maybe a certain sexual identity or gender identity or cultural identity or religious identity. Whatever your identity is, it could be that you may have struggled to find your tribe, or that you may have had a hard time being with your tribe for quite some time with this 10 of Swords, and now it's over. And your true desire is really to be with your tribe here, and this is one of your ultimate wishes, right? So this is a strong energy coming in to clarify what it is you're really looking for. And that, I feel like, is really, it also makes sense now that the Empress comes in, because if one of your greatest desires is to really form with your collective and form with a group of people that you feel at home with, then part of your Chariot energy laying the path, of course, is it is the desire to be kind to yourself, to be loving, and to love yourself. Empress energy comes in for you. This Empress could very well be a maternal figure in your life, Scorpio, that comes in and absolutely gives you that love that you were looking for, or that acceptance that you were looking for. Right? Because as your attitude with this Chariot towards this period is about going out and taking the steps towards your goal, you're being met with Empress energy. If your goal is to meet with others and to be, like, you know, like I said, supported in a group of people that you feel comfortable with, some of you may have a very strong maternal figure coming in for you that is going to really welcome you in with open arms and really sort of be like, hey, here you are. We are your tribe. We're welcoming you. The Tower comes in to clarify that 3 of Wands. Now the Tower is indicating that, yes, this period of time is still going to be a huge period of change for you. Things you never thought, you know, could happen or happening, or I think that you're certainly going to just have your mind blown and opened up, but in a very positive way, right? You may have felt that it was going to be impossible for you to find your tribe, but you do, and you find it in such a way that you still have a Tower moment, because it's just shocking how things are working out, you know, how things work out. And it's an expansion. Having a Tower moment is expanding your horizons, your understanding, and your wisdom and experience. So it's an expansion, certainly, of what you thought, what you held on to before. Ace of Swords comes in to clarify that 4 of Wands. So I think for some of you also, yes, finding love has been part and parcel of all of this. Finding a soulmate connection, certainly. Certainly the type of soulmate connection that would end in possible marriage, because 4 of Wands is also an indicator of marriage. Ace of Swords comes in to indicate that you're going to have victory in this area. You're going to really find a way to get this, because Ace of Swords is all about having the right ideas, thinking clearly, being logical, being able to formulate a plan for your life that works, having access to the right information and using it the right way. So Ace of Swords comes in certainly as a form of energy that's going to help you to figure out how to achieve this, or help you to go about taking the right steps to getting closer to your Four of Wands desire. And King of Swords comes in over the Hierophant, so it could very well be that a King of Swords is in your future. Someone who is very, very honest, very direct, very domineering, could be coming into your future with this Hierophant. And this could be the answer to your Four of Wands energy, because it's a Swords, and it's a Swords court card. And the King of Swords is someone who really is very, very intelligent. I want to say, very honest, very, very clear and very honest. And if you're resonating with this reading, then of course you're wanting somebody who's very honest. You have Prince of Swords here, which is another knight, talking about really cutting away the ties that are holding you back. Again, this feels to me like a Scorpio who's really sort of spreading their wings as far as who they are, as far as what their identity is. And again, that identity could be anything. It could be a gender identity that you're accepting. It could be a sexual identity that you're accepting. It could be a cultural identity that you have come to accept in your life. Whatever this identity issue is, your desire this April-May period is to explore that, to come together with other like-minded individuals, to find love within this community also, which I think you will be finding. And Seven of Swords is how you round off. Now, Seven of Swords, just watch out. It is the card for treachery and futility. And the reason why I wanted to keep this until the end, I wanted to be sure about what this energy is saying. And I think that for some of you who are specifically coming out into a new sort of support group, I want to say, or tribe, like I keep saying, right? There may be certain people that you are offending, right? Or that you are upsetting with this, because certainly there's family or there's friends or somebody you already know in your life that you don't feel so connected with, because this is a movement towards something, right? This is the reading is showing a sign of moving towards something, certainly coming out of a dark period. So whoever you have your connections with now may not be people that you do feel so comfortable with. And by you pursuing this avenue for your life now, right, making this one of your focuses, there will be people who you're already connected to who are going to resonate with the Seven of Swords, and they may be, little do you know, working behind the scenes to sort of ruin your plans, bring you down. Prince of Swords is there. He cuts ties with people, places, and things that bring his self-image down and cause him to doubt himself and lower his self-esteem and confidence, right? This is what the Prince of Swords does. He cuts those ties very actively. So this is a hearkening to more Swords energy up here, that some of you will have to watch out for that. You may have to cut ties with people you've known for a long time. If you suddenly change this can even be a political view. Say, for instance, you change your political outlook. You had a certain political stance, you come from a certain political environment, family status, what have you. You're having this sort of outlook now. You realize these are not your people, and you're changing. You want to be much more active with your people. This is an example of what I was talking about also. It can be that when this comes out and when you make your change down whatever path you desire, that, people in your own family are going to now disown you, or they're going to have issues with you because you are on a different political spectrum. So it's not even about, a gender thing or a sexual thing that a lot of people want to talk about, like transgender issues. It's issues in any area where you may be coming out against the status quo, whether that's political, religious, cultural, sexual, gender, whatever the case is, right? So just take care. All right, guys, I'm going to leave it at that. This is your April, May, June general outlook. I just wanted to say, I hope you got something out of it, right? Like I said at the beginning of the video, something drew you here. And I am glad if you made it to the end of the video, I'm glad you made it all the way to the end. Thank you so much. Please like, subscribe, and share if you enjoyed this reading. Leave me a comment. Let us know what you're going through, if this resonated with you. But for right now, Scorpio, have a wonderful next few months, and I will see you in your next Scorpio reading. Bye-bye now.